and welcome to this discussion today, bringing together a range of international perspectives on the future of festivals at this online day of the Beyond Conference as part of Unboxed Creativity in the UK's partner programme at Beyond. We're recording this on Friday the 7th of October, so 11 days before Beyond starts in earnest, for full disclosure. My name is Katie Popwell. I'm Senior International Producer for Unboxed, and for the benefit of anybody listening to this with visual impairment, I'm a white woman in my 40s with shoulder-length dark hair, wearing a black shirt and silver earrings. In August of this year, I had the privilege of bringing together a delegation of 11 international festival leaders in Edinburgh. We were there to visit Dream Machine, one of the Unboxed commissions that was being presented as part of Edinburgh International Festival and Edinburgh Science Festival, and to facilitate a programme of knowledge sharing and cultural exchange around the future of international festivals, supported by the international partner of Unboxed, the British Council. Over 5 days, we experienced all the energy and creative expression of the Edinburgh festivals. We heard from a number of the creative teams leading Unboxed commissions and a number of festival leaders, including the Fringe and Edinburgh Book Festival. We spent a great deal of time discussing our different perspectives on and roles within the global ecology of international festivals. So, as part of the Beyond Conference online programme, we're taking the opportunities presented by the World Wide Web to bring back 3 members of that international network spanning 3 continents to talk about some of the strategies, methodologies, trends and challenges of sustainable festival leadership in different international contexts and what those festivals might look like in the future. I have with me today Hardesh Singh, an entrepreneur who works across the creative and digital economy in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Hardesh is the founder of the Kuala Lumpur Festival, an ideas and creative festival for literature, music, art, design and digital that was founded in 2013. Outside of the festival, Hardesh runs a digital consultancy and is currently pursuing his PhD in sustainable development. Carla Uller is Executive Manager of Oi Futuro, a non-profit Brazilian institute dedicated to fostering an innovative ecosystem for artists, producers, educators and social entrepreneurs in Brazil and Latin America, where she's responsible for culture, education and social entrepreneurship programs and has worked with over 40 festivals across Brazil. Welcome, Carla, and thanks for joining us from Rio. And finally, Haitham Nuar is a practicing artist and designer, as well as a scholar in the fields of art and design based in Cairo, Egypt. Haitham's taught at the Ionian Centre for Art and Culture in Catalonia, at the School of Design in Hong Kong, and in 2014 became Assistant Professor of Design at the American University in Cairo, where he's been Chair of the Department of the Arts since 2019. Alongside his academic career, Haitham is Founding Director of Cairotronica, Cairo International Electronic and New Media Arts Festival, a biannual festival founded in 2016. So welcome, Haitham. So thank you so much to all of you for joining me across a number of complex time zones and very, very busy schedules. So we really appreciate that. I want to begin by inviting each of you to talk a bit about your work and how it relates to the sustainability priorities in your country. So Hardesh Singh, I'll begin with you.
Thank you, Katie, and it's nice to be here again with my friends, my newly found friends from the Edinburgh trip a couple of weeks ago. My name is Hardesh. I'm from Kuala Lumpur, and I am Asian of Indian heritage, and I'm wearing a black color collared t-shirt, and I wear spectacles. So in Malaysia, and with regards to the festival that I run, I think one of the big areas that we are currently looking at is really about the sustainability in terms of the talent development. It so happens that during the pandemic, there was a report by one of the government agencies here that looked at the informal nature of the creative economy. And this is, I think, quite common in many parts of the world. But one of the things that they realized was that 63% of the respondents in this particular survey had mentioned that they do not have any form of retirement savings. And if you work in the formal sector, you would have contributions to retirement savings, but 63% is a very, very high number, and it's really very worrying. And when you factor in that even within the so-called formal sector, many jobs are now moving into informal and gig nature, I think this is something that countries everywhere are going to be forced to deal with. So with regards to my festival, what started off as a festival that was, very built around the sexiness of ideas, and it was really about entertainment and bringing joy to people. I think moving forward, we are really trying to find our place in terms of what are the really important points for society that we need to work on, and to build a festival moving forward that is rooted in real issues and not just about flashiness and the sexiness around entertainment. I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thanks, Hardesh. You've raised some really interesting points there that we're definitely going to come back to afterwards. Carla, can you tell us a bit about the work of Oi Futuro in relation to sustainability in Brazil?
Yes, of course. It's very good to be here with you again after our travel, our delegation in Edinburgh a few weeks ago. And Oi Futuro is an institute that exists for the past 20 years in Brazil. And we combine different strategies to bring innovation, inclusion, and creativity to our ecosystem. And we work with public schools. We have an art schools for initiation of young artists. We also have a cultural center, a museum, a laboratory in Brazil. So we work in different stages of the creative economy. But festivals is a priority for us. It's a platform that we have been working with for this past 20 years. And today we have specific programs to support and to commission festivals all over Brazil. And one of these programs is we developed with the British Council. So what we do right now is to tackle emergent subjects and questions using the festivals as a big stage to connect to the audiences. So our last program is called Circular Culture. We developed with the British Council, and we selected 6 festivals all over Brazil to offer technical training in sustainability for the organizers, and also to offer financial support to promote unique artistic residence between British and Brazilians. And in this residence, they will develop collaborations about the climate challenge, and they will showcase the results in the festivals that were selected. So it's just a quick overview of what we do and concerning sustainability.
Thank you, Carla, and we'll definitely come back to that in more detail as well. But finally, Haitham, can you introduce Chirotronica to us and tell us how it relates to sustainability in Egypt?
Hi everyone, thank you again, Katie, and glad to see you, Hardish and Carla, even virtually, not in person. My name is Haitham Nawal. I'm Egyptian, and as Katie introduced me, but currently I'm actually in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. I work as an advisor for the Ministry of Culture of Saudi Arabia, and just want to try in brief to answer the question of Katie about how to bring sustainability to what we do. So Chirotronica is a festival that actually focuses on the intersection between art, science, and technology. And actually it works for the community. So we try actually to use these 3 different sectors that we could actually create a system that could work for the society. So mostly people from the art sector, they are actually working together, working alone. And scientists as well, they are working alone. And then people are investing in technology. They are more in a commercial sector. So we try to build an ecosystem between the 3 entities that might actually help young artists, designers, entrepreneurs, that can actually take it further. And that will impact for sure the society. And we have different examples about actually how to work with companies, universities, individuals, and so on. And in a system like Cairo, of course, it's a little bit challenging, but I like actually what Hardish just said. It's an informal system that could actually work for everyone.
I kind of wanted to start by thinking about something that Hardesh mentioned, which was that principal function of the festival, which is the social, to bring people together and to facilitate a collective civic experience. So I wonder if we can kind of start by reflecting on that civic role of festivals in your specific region, and how you think that relates to the festival that you work on. And I know that I hesitate slightly when I say that, Carla, because I know that you work across about 40 different festivals, whereas Hytham and Hardesh very much have kind of creative directorship over their individual festivals. So it will be slightly different shape to the answer from each of you. Hardesh, can we start with you?
Yep, I can probably give some context to the sort of social landscape in Malaysia. We are a multiracial country, and when it comes to a multiracial country, there are always things that need to be negotiated. But negotiating is always there are always challenges to negotiating and finding compromises. One of the things that we try to do in the festival is that we do not shy away from really important questions that sometimes the government sees as taboo. And I always joke with my team members that it's almost a matter of pride for us that every year when we have this festival, here in the police, we have something called a special branch that was set up many, many years ago, that primarily to look at communist ideology. But now they look at sort of dangerous thinking among people, and they always visit our festival because we tackle everything from LGBT rights to social rights to democratic institutions, and so I think the festival. I'm proud to say that we've always been a platform that has created a space for these dialogues. Couple of years ago, when there were huge protests in Hong Kong, we actually invited some of the student leaders to come to our festival to talk about it. And I think that's also rooted in our festival being built as an ideas festival, because I think ideas are what ultimately changed the world. And we see what's happening in Iran today. It's so important that young women have a platform to have their voices heard. And I think that's kind of what I've always hoped for our festival to be, a safe space for people to have their say. It can be uncomfortable to other people, but it's something worth defending. We've sort of gotten in trouble at times for creating that space, but I think it is, to me, in reference to your question, a festival can be this important platform for society to really challenge itself and to figure out what are the big questions that we need to answer. And I'll just cap that off by saying that right now, given that we have such a huge emergency ahead of us when it comes to climate change and sustainability, I think it's even more important that festivals actually take on these challenges, especially in places where governments are being laggards when it comes to facing these issues.
Thanks, Hardesh. That's really brilliantly put. Carla, I wonder if you'd like to comment on any of that from your perspective.
Yes. What I kept thinking while you were speaking is we want to use the festivals to bring people together, but the question is what for? And I think Hardesh answered a little bit of this question. What we expect when we unite people in a same place, in a physical experience, or even in a virtual experience. And I can talk from the place of the institution that commission, that sponsor, and that support these kinds of projects and events. And what we look for, of course, we look for decentralized innovation in these festivals, We are looking for new artists and collaborations. We are looking for new language and art forms. But we are also working for race and gender equality. We are looking for social inclusion, human rights, and sustainability. And when we talk about the festivals, we know that they are an important contemporary stage for to promote cultural shifts. So we have to use these places, these privileged places, to develop more empathy, social empathy, and also to make sure that new voices can emerge, and that the festivals are a safe places both for artists, creatives, and our audiences.
So Hytham, I mean, there's a lot there in what Carla was saying, particularly around kind of the ways that they use creative technology to meet some of the needs of the kind of the social agenda around the function of festivals. How does that relate to the socio-political climate in Egypt?
So actually, I was going to build on what Carla and Haj actually said, and so festival is a platform. It's a space, a safe space for expression. So in the context of the Egypt or the region where I come from, so it's actually giving people a way to to express about what they do. So we give the creative practitioner the liberty to, or the freedom of expression through the artworks, and that's actually one of the very, I would say again, alternative but healthy way of doing this. So we discuss critical issues. We look for critical matters in the region, and we try to provoke the creative practitioner to actually work on those matter and present it and exhibit the work, and let the community actually engage in, again, in a healthy way with what they do. So, and I think, at least from my experience, maybe this is the only way when it comes to the socio-political issues that we have in Egypt and the Middle East.
There are a number of other important functions that are fulfilled by festivals that I want to come back to, which we've touched on a little bit in this discussion. And one of them, to come back to a point that you made right at the beginning, Hardesh, is around talent development. And so I just want to come back to you a little bit so that you can talk a little bit about some of those talent development initiatives which you've worked across, and also thinking about building resilience in the sector as the other point that I want to come to, because I know you've been working on some really interesting COVID resilience initiatives as well, and perhaps you could speak to those a little bit.
I think this is an interesting way to start thinking about the bigger question that we are trying to address, which is the future of festivals. And we are in a setting where there's a lot of technological changes, and one of the things that I'm particularly concerned about is, when it comes to technology and new forms of technology like artificial intelligence, machine learning. One of the things that these technologies are, or rather the cautionary note, is that a lot of times it's going to lead to some form of technological displacement. And for a long time, the worry was that it was going to affect blue collar workers, but we see now that it's actually even affecting white collar workers. The issue here really is that when you talk about white collar workers and sort of corporate people in the corporate sector, there is a way out, which is really about upskilling them and retraining them so that they are able to move up the value chain. This is not very clear in terms of who makes these investments when it comes to cultural and creative workers. Who is the one who bears the cost of retraining and upskilling cultural and creative workers? So this comes back again to the earlier problem that I mentioned in terms of the nature of this job, which are in the informal sector. So now you actually have a double whammy. They don't have social security, and they have the threat of technological displacement. And so that, I think, is a jumping off point for us to really figure out, when it comes to future of festivals, what is the place for people and dignified jobs within the sector. I don't think there's a clear answer. Different governments are approaching it through different means. Some governments have started experimenting with forms of universal basic income for the arts sector, but these are really still pilot programs in certain parts of Europe. Other countries try to do it through grants, but the problem with grants is that it still inherently is a form of competition. So some people will win the grant, some people won't win the grant. So you still don't solve the problem across the sector.
I'm really interested to understand whether or not that set of circumstances and that description relates to the context that you're working in, Carla, and then Haitham, I'll come to you with the same question.
In Brazil today, 3% of the total country revenue comes from the creative industry. But on the other hand, we still face what Hardas just described as an informal market for workers. And we have, I think, for the future of festivals and the creative economy itself, we have to work on this issue. If we want to promote real social impact and social inclusion, we have to consider all the festivals and creative economy industry. So just to give you an example, Rock in Rio is a festival in Rio de Janeiro. It's the bigger one we have in terms of audiences. In only one single day, we have 100,000 people together in this festival. It's a massive music festival. And of course, it's very important for the city of Rio de Janeiro in terms of revenue and profit for our economy. And this single festival helps to create 28,000 jobs, but they are temporary jobs. And the most part of these people will have to move to new challenges right after the end of the festival. So talking from the side of someone from an institution that sponsors festivals, we have to be very responsible about the workers. They are involved in this kind of events. And I think what we have to be conscious about more and more is that a festival is not about 1, 2 days, 3 days of events. It's not about 1 year of working in the organization of that event. It's a platform that needs time to grow, to develop, to evolve. And when we start thinking about this long-term platform, and we need to fight for long-term investment for it, we will take care of the workers as well too. So maybe this temporary character or nature of the jobs will also change when we start understanding and recognizing it's not about 2, 3 days of events. It's not about 1 year. It's about years. We need to actually see the results of a festival in terms of social impact.
Actually, I don't have really much to add because I mean, Hardish and Carla, they said it all. I just have again talking about the future festivals and with the hard exercise of the COVID time, and so it's really I think not just only in the art and culture sector, as any other sectors, like there's many jobs they will disappear, and many new jobs that will appear. So I think our world, they will become hybrid, and I think we need just to be prepared for that. From my point of view, Egypt, if I talk about Egypt in this matter, is Egypt is overpopulated country, so there is 100,000 of people working in this sector, and there is still opportunities for people to work on the sector, even if with all technological challenges. However, these opportunities will disappear soon. But I think we need more training, education, prepare them for the new jobs. prepare them for the jobs of the future, because always keeping asking for support from the state. I mean, a country like Egypt doesn't really support at all culture. It's very difficult. Only the state organizations that they actually support with a very limited budget, and private sector have its own interest for sure. And sometimes it works, and other time doesn't work. So again, we need our part of our responsibility to prepare the art and culture sector workers for jobs of the future. And just because supposedly we can think one step ahead. So that might help actually from our side as well.
We haven't actually talked yet about climate. We haven't talked about carbon reduction measures. We've been talking about economic sustainability. We've been talking about sustainability of communities, about social cohesion, and around talent development. Carla, you're nodding enthusiastically, so I want to bring you in here.
So let's jump to climate. It's very interesting, all this discussion. Well, about climate, I think it's a major concern, not only for Brazil. It's not one country's cause. It's not one country's subject, because we are obviously, and the pandemic showed us in a very radical way, that we are all interconnected in the world. So what happens here happens to everyone. It's not only one country's problem. So we have the Amazon forest, and as Brazilians, it's our responsibility to protect it, because we know that what happens to Amazon will spread to the rest of the countries and the planet. So, but when we think that the south of Brazil and the southeast, where I live, where Rio is very, very far to Amazon forest. So you probably, when you think about Amazon, you think like it's remote for you, but it's always also remote for us from the south and southeast of Brazil. So how to protect an area that's so far from us in our daily lives? What's the Amazon forest at all? And I think that what we have been doing here is using the powerful role of the artists from the Amazon region to give visibility of what the forest is and how we are related to it. So we have been sponsoring artists and festivals that were created and developed in the Amazon region. There are more than one state in the Amazon region. So there is a festival we love a lot. It's called Amazon Mapping. They use new technologies inside the Amazon forest. And very recently, we sponsored an immersive residence for artists, and a 10 days art residence inside the forest to develop new artwork tackling the climate emergency. And the results of this residence will be showcased in another festival that we support. So we are trying to connect these ecosystems of organizations, artists, and festivals in the Amazon region, because we really believe that the creative economy has an important and powerful role of climate protection, the forest protection, to avoid the evolution of deforestation that we have been seeing with much concern in Brazil in the past years.
Hytham, you're a designer and an artist as well as being a festival director. And I wondered whether or not, when it comes to that question of how we measure and evidence the positive impact of our working in cultural festivals, whether or not when you bring a kind of a design lens to that, you are able to perhaps give a different perspective on it.
We try in Kaitronica that we measure the impact. I think there is one quantitative and one qualitative ones. So the quantitative ones, it's actually, I think it's a very classical practice of like measure numbers and participation and see statistics after the end of the festival, how many attendees and how many and so on. And I think this is again, it's a classical practice. what we really care a lot is most actually the qualitative measures, which this is something we try to measure by the level of engagement and the discussions happen after actually the festival, and see if there is actually within the whole online platform, and see if there is discussions and um, one of the projects, for example, that we did, it's called Algorithmic Perfumery. It's a project for a Dutch artist, and it was part of Kaitronica Festival, which is it's based on algorithms that you create your own perfume based on your algorithm. So it's a data that you input, like it's data you give to the machine, and then about your personality and your what you do and your like plenty of questions, like 20 minutes of questionnaire you have to fill, and then at the end it gives you 3 samples of um, an odor as a perfume that actually based on your personality. This project, for example, created a huge amount of uh, of of, of um, buzz, and because newspapers spoke about it, people spoke about it, different generations, people they came only to discuss the project with the people of Kaitronica, with the artist, sending questions and about how does it work, algorithms that can create a customized perfume. So that type of discussions and curiosity, it, that's the type of impact we are trying to observe. And that's what we call it qualitative more than actually quantitative. Because yes, we have the numbers, how many visited, we have the number, how many engage in workshops and talks, and which is again totally fine. Of course, it shows a lot. But when you have uh, again the type of discussions, then you feel you created really something. When it goes to the news and people talk about it, then there is something changed. And just want to build for the climate. I mean, luckily it was really that the COP27. It's actually happening in Egypt in the upcoming November, for example. And it's a topic that everybody's tackling. Politicians and artists and all kind of sectors, they have now the attention towards Egypt for the current matter. And K20 next edition, the theme actually, it's called Imagine Ecologies, and it was by coincidence because we had the theme already before actually knowing that COP27 is happening in Egypt. And in the Arab world and in Egypt, the climate change it's actually affecting us so much on the ground. However, people are completely away from the reality. There is no awareness about this. So we hope, again, with our creative practitioners in Egypt through our festival, that we might have again an alternative awareness about what's happening in our region, because actually we focus mostly on the region itself. And we will let you know after the festival if there is a qualitative impact or not.
Thanks, Hytham. That sounds fascinating. And I think it's really, I mean, I'm really struck by the importance of interdisciplinary practice to the building of your approach to programming, but actually from Hardesh and Carla as well, bringing together science and technology with creative practice was actually one of the criteria on which this group was built. And what that ended up with was that we brought together an international network of practitioners who are very open, who don't tend to work in siloed ways, and who are very fluid when it comes to thinking about solutions focused design, and actually that's exactly what's demanded by the climate crisis. It is kind of people from all those different backgrounds and all those different sectors coming together. With that in mind, and that kind of importance of bringing together creative, scientific, technological expertise in order to create solutions and innovation for the future, I want to invite each one of you just to share with me your vision for the future of either your festival that you work on, or Carla, one of the initiatives that you're working with Oi Futuro, and so share that vision and one initiative which you're putting in place in order to take you towards that future. So I'm going to start with you, Hardesh.
We've always tried to do some programming specifically for children, a younger audience. And all this while has always been about, storytelling and, learning how to write and sort of play activities. But moving forward, one of the things that I'm really trying to work out with my team is how do we create an environment through the festival, through creativity, to really get younger audiences to understand the future that they are going to inherit, and sort of what they can do within their own communities. And I think that's something that will be worthwhile. Young people are extremely resourceful. They are very well read. They are very up to date. But I think there's a way to sort of really help them understand the science, because it can be very complicated sometimes. And I think a festival is a great place to create this sort of narrative and storytelling and cultural content that is targeted to young people and helping them understand what's going on.
I think what we need right now is common ground to develop more diverse, inclusive, generous futures. And when we talk about the future here, we talk in plural, because we believe that future can be many things depending on where you are, who you are, what's your community. So we want to embrace futures in the plural, and we believe that the festivals are a possible common ground to develop progressive narratives. And we know that disinformation and fake news are the real big virus of our time, and how we tackle it with more progressive messages, narratives, and causes. We believe that investing in festivals is a long-term investment, and what we are very interested in seeing in the future in festival is experimentation, free innovation, decentralized innovation. So we want to see festivals being created not only by the traditional festival organizers, but also by people from the outskirts, from different races, different genders, with different progressive agendas. So when we support festivals in the north region of Brazil, that's what we want to see. The new futures, their visions of the new futures. We cannot set by themselves what the future is going to be. So we have to explore new visions all over the country and in different countries. And that's how we'll build together this more generous tomorrow.
Okay, so I will try to be brief about this. I mean, I think our vision for a future festival is really very basic from my point of view, is keeping this safe space, and also broader our definition of the word space. Space could be physical or virtual space. And if I talk about virtual space, it's global. It's not just only in Egypt, it's all over. So we should really invest on the technology that will enable us to keep this space a safe space. And for the physical space, which we're trying hard in Egypt, which is again is also a big country and very diverse, not that big as Brazil, but it's big, and we try to use the idea of decentralization. We try to have a moving festival, not to be only based in one location. We have to occupy different venues, speak to different generations, use different different languages that we communicate with different age sectors. And again, so we need to work on that space to keep it available, because again, it's always, I feel every edition of Kaitronica, there is a thread that we cannot continue. So even surviving, that keeping this going is also part of our mission for the future.
Thank you so much to all of you. This has been a really fascinating conversation, as I know I always knew it would be with the three of you. And I feel enormously privileged and pleased that we're able to bring you all together to have this conversation. So I would like to thank all of you for joining us today. Thank you to Hardesh, Hytham and Carla. Thank you to the Beyond Conference for hosting us. Thank you to the British Council for facilitating bringing us all together in the first place. And thank you to all of you for joining us.